disappointing Gnar game.
Yeah. Poppy also tends to help block a lot of the other junglers that really rely on trying to close the distance in their basic abilities. I don't know if Weibo Gaming are setting up for a Vi first pick. I really hope not. That would make me really sad because I don't know if you've ever heard my rant about it before, but I hate blinding Vi just like in the very first pick of the draft. But if you're trying to prioritize Lulu, that makes a lot more sense.
This is really interesting because you had brought up that 26-7, there was a couple of nerfs to enchanters. Also, Hong, I think historically has not been the best enchanter player, but I think we saw in top esports last year that towards the end of Split 3, he actually started to get the hang of some of these champions. I think of Karma, I think of Lulu especially. Get out of here. I was worried about his champion pool, and in best of threes, you only get so many options here for what you get here. I'm so glad that was out of frame. AL, though, they're going to just go for good range, good solid 2v2s, especially in bottom lane. We're going to have the Corki, Nami can't be answered, and Azir, I think one of Shanks' most classically best champions we've gotten from him.
And anytime you have a Lulu, you can set up for a hyper carry, which Weibo Gaming, while yes, Ashe Seraphine is a very strong lane, doesn't necessarily always highlight Elk's strengths, especially since he has evolved from just being more of a side carry and what people thought from BLG in a world of stars with like Bin and Knight and even Shun to a degree that Elk is just there to make sure that he is kind of like the weak side carry. He has definitely proven off of his first split here with Weibo that he can be a star, and now that he has the reins on something like a Yunara, I know Slayer loves talking about this champion, and then paired alongside the Lulu, once she pops that ultimate, she is a beast.
Correct. Nocturne as well, good at being able to hunt on side lanes. I think a really decent answer into Azir. I just wonder what matchups we're going to get. I really don't want to see a Talia for Xiaohu. I think it becomes really problematic in mid-game skirmishes when we're kind of standing off on those 5v5s around objectives, and there's a Nami throwing, or there's a Corki with Nami buffs on top of him, throwing rockets at us from mid-range. Azir can also either outrange us or force some kind of fight around our summoner spells. That, I think, becomes really difficult and tricky for Weibo to deal with, but right now, from what I'm seeing, Weibo very clearly want to be able to play on the 5v5s and maybe hunt inside lanes beforehand. So let's get good matchups for our solo lanes. That is something that's going to be really interesting considering they don't necessarily have counter pick.
I also just like the prospect of once you get this Yunara and Lulu into mid, if you turn out the lights, you might just feel more bold to just instantly pop Transcendence and just go for a 2v2 or a 1v1 if it's just you and Corki in that mid lane. And you can just give yourself those angles. And now Weibo, the fact that they got Nocturne, there's no Pantheon and Xin from Fearless, they're already banning pretty much a plethora of other junglers that Tarzan might need to just help facilitate the rest of his map with this composition.
What is he going to look for? You could go for some... Honestly, Trundle's actually kind of interesting here in terms of what he provides. You do get kind of outranged, yes, but I think Pillar is, again, just super, super broken. And if you're going to meet Trundle versus Nocturne in the river, I want to be Trundle every time. I'm sorry. That sounds like a lot of fun for me anyway. Let's see what AL are going to prioritize. I think they really need frontline. I would love a Cassante. I would love a Sejuani as well. That I think really fits the bill for what they want to do and is still a flex here between our top and jungle.
A lot of hovers on a lot of interesting options. I'm going to refrain until we get the final lock-in because there's a different angles you can go for. Tarzan not going for a facilitator or a tank or engage. He's going for the carry. And the thing is with Naafiri, she is a reliable Serpent's Fang carrier. And on something like a Lulu empowered Yunara, you do need a way to cut through the shielding she's going to get later into the game.
Ooh, and Nocturne, if this isn't going to end up being a Renekton, I think Naafiri is really broken. Naafiri, Corki, these champions love to play into short-range compositions like those. So right now, Weibo, they're trying to pick champions and specifically side lanes in mid and top lane that once we get breakout and put the 80 carries in mid lane, we're just going to be trying to hunt them as fast as possible. Nocturne has ultimate, cool. We're setting up for Jace and Aurora to find kills onto their counterparts here. Naafiri, I think, adds a really interesting spanner that even in 5-on-5s, she just dives straight into whatever carry you have. And with no frontline here from Weibo, this is where now we are going to have a composition or a 5-on-5 between our two teams that is going to involve who can land their poke first. Who is it that is going to be able to get relevant damage down? And I would love to be be on AL's side of that kind of draft. I want to be the Corki and Nami and the Azir versus these guys. I want to force Weibo to have to fight me for their chances of even winning.
Yeah, this is so bizarre because outside of Nocturne, neither of these teams really have engaged, Dimitri. You have maybe Anyone's Legend trying to fish for a tidal wave, but that's kind of like a soft engage. Do you really want to bank it on just sending it with an Emperor's Divide Shurima Shuffle? Because otherwise, it seems like both compositions are just trying to fight to take space first in order to force the other opponents to walk into them, which then favors them much better on that setup.
Yeah, this is a tricky draft. I personally don't understand why Weibo are opting to play harder games versus their opponents. You're not in a best of 5. You're not seeking out champions. You have good matchups for yourself. And if they end up winning this game, I'm sure we're going to find ways to kind of come back to this and be like, look, they came in, they actually really, really performed, but I have not been a big fan of Jace's top lane so far. I think a lot of it in LCK has been really disappointing to watch, even with the grasp, even with some of the changes. I want to see some aggressive summoner spells going into this York. Otherwise, I think he just dog walks you in the lane, and then you're never hitting the 1v1 afterwards if you lose early.
Yeah. And while Nocturne is a champion that wants to scale and play for level 6, I think the threat of a Nefiri going ignored for too long is something that you cannot just let idly sit by, especially when it's someone like Tarzan. But here we go. We'll see how it all unfolds as we hit Summoner's Rift for Game 2 between Anyone's Legend and Weibo.
I want my I need my safety blanket, Mark. I can't lie.
Why is that?
Jace has phase rush, and
oh,
not only the phase rush. The phase rush is not the bad part. He has teleport. There's no ignite. There's no barrier. There's no exhaust. No ghost. Nothing to help you win the lane. So
it's a little deflating based on what you were hoping for. I get it. I get it. Once again, both of these bot lanes trading very aggressively with their summoner spells and the level 1 abilities and auto attacks, just trying to fight for priority in this wave. Very similar, but Corki Nami, hell of a lane to try and overcome just because you have so much powerful sustain and poke. But again, this is 2607, where supposedly both of these enchanters were nerfed, and
oh, they got level 2 first though. Wow, a lot of respect being showed by Hope. Even, I mean, as long as Elk doesn't have the Q stacks, you can fight Yunara. It's just once that starts letting go and she hits the active on it, then it becomes a bit more problematic for the 2v2. But now both of these, almost all of these summoner spells gone for AL's bottom lane. And I think maybe the thankful thing, if you are Hope and Kael, is you're like, all right, it's Nocturne. He really can't get on top of us unless he like flash Qs. And with the wave with where it's at, I don't think we're going to be seeing too much of that here.
Yeah. LPL once again highlighting the fact that Nami's ebb and flow did get nerfed. It went from 20% to 10% effectiveness on the bounce. But like you mentioned, Nocturne doesn't really have the greatest of setups in terms of dives. Oh, Jiejie, please. Oh my God. Jiejie trying to min-max the jungle clear and adds a couple seconds to his overall clear, being greedy with the leash pull.
Are you sad that they're getting rid of that next patch? They're getting rid of multi-leashing for jungle camps. It's I think it's either this patch they already killed it. It's an unwritten bug fix for this patch. Oh, we're going for...
Hang on. I'll save my anger for later. Jiejie does get the smite on the crab, but at what cost? Is he going to try to burn the flash? Does it at that moment, and Tarzan just immediately follows up, and he is already howling with the first blood.
And I think the most beautiful part about that play, things that maybe fans won't immediately recognize, is that because Tarzan flashed, his dogs got in front of Jiejie, and it messed up the pathing. It caused Jiejie to stutter step around him, and that immediately turns it into a free kill. So Tarzan not going to get the bottom side scuttle, but he's going to get first blood again, top side scuttle, and look at this, his top side camps are already respawning.
Tarzan immediately trying to put to rest that the lower bracket semifinals performance that Jiejie had, where he nearly turbo gapped Tarzan in almost every single game, was just a one-time thing, at least going into the second split of our 2026 season. And if anyone's legend continues a momentum like this, there is a lot to be hopeful for, but obviously this is only 4 minutes into the game. I cannot stress this enough, though. The fact that Tarzan has an early lead on something like a Nefiri, and he's building a serrated Dirk. I'm curious if he's actually going to go for something like a Hubris, which has been popping up a lot in solo queue. I don't know if it's that good here in pro play.
Yeah, I still feel, especially early, you can go for things like the Umbro Glaive did get buffed sometime in between playoffs and now. We've also been seeing a lot of opportunity. See this 2v2 go off. You are very excited as Alk.
Hope still doesn't have flash from the prior all-in that Weibo's bot lane were looking for when they hit level 2 first. But Hope is able to at least survive the encounter and continue to sustain. Jiejie is going to be the first one on this bot side. Tarzan is about to face check it, has no idea that Nocturne is here first, but thankfully for him, he still has some movement ability despite burning their flashes.
It's really important for him to either find ganks where he can sometimes just soak experience and be there for his team, but more importantly is just protect his lanes and go back to his camps. He wants to be able to farm up right now, and it's looking tough, I think, for Weibo to go for this dragon. They are losing the push, or they're winning the push in bottom lane, but Azir is completely untouched in this mid lane right now, and Tarzan, I think, just has more flexibility thanks to his champion to be able to move around this jungle path. So they're trying to clear out vision. You can see that Hope, he doesn't have flash, so they really want to see if they can get him off of this next wave, get a reset, or even just get this early plate for Elk. But I mean, other than that, I'm still happy if I'm anyone's legend here.
Yeah. Sure, you go down, what, 3 CS? Okay. They'll take the space here where doesn't look like it's going to be a cannon minion wave. Not sure how much realistically they're going to lose off of it, but they are surviving so far. Now, is there a concern that you're losing with Corki Nami, or because we're on a new patch, we have no idea if this lane is still like as oppressive as it used to be?
So I think Corki Nami tends to get conflated very easily because we tend to, especially here on the show, you know, when we're casting live, there's a lot of things going on that we're trying to pay attention to, so we kind of put things in boxes and they stay in that category. Corki Nami, early lane, level 1 through 3, your champion's OP, you get to press Gatling Gun, and you have the Tidecaller's Blessing. I really like to see Corki Nami as this mid-game nightmare to deal with, because on one item, Trinity Force plus Imperial Mandate, you are basically never losing very many 2v2s, and against a Yunara, Lulu especially, that is a nightmare scenario to deal with. You on one item are very strong against a bunch of 80 carries, but if you can get that poke down, you can basically stop Yunara from ever finding those 2v2s or even those 1v1s when she presses her ultimate. So it's kind of about, right now, I wouldn't say it's losing. I would say once we get those those first couple items on and we see them trading, if they're not getting massive amounts of damage costs against their enemies, then we start to kind of look at this in a more negative light.
Yeah. Well, Weibo Gaming have the bot lane prio and the first move from Xiaohu, so they are going to look for this dragon first. Tarzan is level 7, but both junglers have smite at 1k. Tarzan not going to officially go over the wall and try and look for a 50-50. Jiejie cleanly secures it. Tarzan continues on his path. Next objective is going to be in about 15 seconds for Grubs. This is something where I feel like both teams would benefit a lot of trying to prioritize hopefully all 3 Grubs, because if you have either a Jace or a Yorick in the side lane threatening, you are gonna be whopping some major damage on these turrets.
Yeah, I think it is very dangerous for Weibo to give up 3 Grubs or a majority of the Grubs to AL, not just because of the, obviously you mentioned the Yorick here for Flandre, but I think Azir on side lanes with 3 Grubs, say goodbye to turrets. He's going to always get away with this. And you're not even really able to force that much damage down onto Shanks here in this lane, so I mean, Shanks is still getting close to his first item, and that's great for AL. This is exactly what we want. And look, there's that hubris that you're mentioning here. So if Tarzan can continue to snowball his lead, we haven't seen much action outside of that first blood, So Weibo are trying to get something here. This would open up a reset for their bottom lane to get those grubs.
Paranoid onto bot lane, targeting Hope, but he has his flash back up. A teleport is coming in. Who is going to join the fray? It is Shanks, but he arrives here a little too late. And for Weibo, they've already done the damage. All Shanks can do is just pick up this wave, but now Tarzan might have a chance for a counterattack onto Jiejie. He's half HP. Tarzan jumps over the wall. He's going to pop Call the Pack for the extra movement speed. Goes in with the Hound's Pursuit. Oh! Tarzan picks up another kill.
There we go. Let the howl of the boys come on through. And that was a really, really well-placed ward there from Anyone's Legends, allowing Shanks to TP into that play. We're going to cancel the recalls. There's no way we're going for a dive. We are merely just setting up a better situation for ourselves to get Shanks to catch another wave, maybe just delay this recall so that Corki can continue to pick up solo experience in mid lane. Tarzan is just feeling himself on this Nefiri right now.
Yeah. No ulti means that Xiaohu wasn't in danger of dying or had to burn ulti or flash, but he can always just stop by and say, hey, let me just chunk your health bar and make the next 30 seconds of your life really painful. Because now Xiaohu has to lose and concede priority over to Hope, so he gets that wave pushed in. Maybe can just shift on bot. I don't know if there's an angle. They're pinging onto Yunara, but there's so much vision that she should be fine.
This is very fake. I think that they're just trying to get lanes situated back in. Mostly, I think, due to the role quest. You're very heavily incentivized to stay in your lane, considering you get passive role quest experience if you are in your lane that you were designated by Riot Games, the government. So, I'm glad that Riot kind of dropped the pretenses and said, look, we're going to start implementing job status, okay? You guys show up to your lane from 9 to 5. You go back, you can clock back out when you get your role quest, okay?
Yeah, you got to put in those hours, man. Put in the 40 hours and then you're done. Instead of work, it feels more like community service at that point, but
depends on what role you're playing. Junglers, you guys are the free-spirited entrepreneurs. You guys get to do whatever the hell you want. You guys get free jungle camps. Here's a stimulus package here for Tarzan. It's going to be an extra hubris proc if you played well.
Goes in with the Hound's Pursuit, can always drop turret aggro with the Call of the Pack. Beautifully played. That is textbook Nefiri diving from Tarzan.
It's Xiaohu can't even like flash, go for an ultimate there. He actually gets put right into the wall for the Dark Procession from Flandre. So that goes from good to even better for AL. They got the kill top side, they got a plate as well, and guess what? Shanks gets some gold in mid lane. Everything's coming up trumps here for AL.
Wow, 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 wow. Somehow the gold lead hasn't ballooned yet for Anyone's Legend, just because all of the efforts from the top side of the map of the Pandas is just equalizing the deficit that Hope had to experience with the early pressure from Alk, the dive from Jiejie, but now it's a pretty even state. And I'm curious to see where Anyone's Legend want to go next. We've got Dragon spawning in 28 seconds. It's not necessarily a race to try and stop them on the second Dragon, but if you are able to pick it up for yourself, you give yourself a lot more options later on third and fourth Dragon spawns.
Mark, I need my safety blanket again, man. I need my safety. Can we maybe look for something around the grubs or around the raptors? No. We have a Proto Belt Aurora. Chovy, can we stop making this, man? The mind control is too crazy, man. My Aurora does no damage. Look at this.
Dude, when I saw a Proto Belt being built on Syndra earlier, I
Get
just
me
thought,
out.
What is going on? Surely this item is not super OP, but I don't know if it's just because, oh, well, carries just want the movement dash ability to be able to get out of things. It's like when Gale Force was back in the meta, but I don't know if it warrants this. But because they took the dragon on the bottom side of the map, Tarzan's trying to fish for some extra camps. Zika knows that it's happening. Jiejie's trying to collapse on it fast enough, but Jiejie does not have his smite available, so Tarzan takes the red buff. Are they looking for another dive? I mean, Jiejie is right here. They had to have seen him.
Oh, and
surely
look at Hope. Hope and Kael are here. Zika,
oh, well,
it's been nice seeing you, brother. No, 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 no!
All Jiejie can do is just farm the Krugs. He's like, hey, Zika, Good luck, man. Like, I'm gonna get this camp, and I'm glad that I'm at least able to eat something on this top side, but I can't help you out. And this has got to feel so terrible for a Jace in this situation where not only you had to blind pick it, I don't know how bad the York matchup is, but I have to imagine that when a York gets ahead like this, and anytime you don't have flash as this Jace, and you get locked in the dark procession, you're just cooked.
Just look at Flandre's item pool right now. Trinity Force, Bladed Steel Caps. You still have the decap. Yeah, you are never killing this guy. Most of Jace's damage is actually front-loaded into his hammer form. And if you go into hammer form as Jace, and you get a Dark Procession on top of you already used Q, GG. Just leave the game. You can already just pretend like you lost 50% of your HP. So that's not great. Really, right now, if you are a Weibo fan, start crying. But if you don't want to do that, or if you're already doing that, the second step here is put all of your faith into Alk. 2,000 gold lead, almost 2 items on Yunara with Fiend Hunter bolts, and you have a Lulu. I think a lot of things are unlocked here for Weibo if they can get one fight that is not centered away from this Yunara champion.
That next dragon, I think, is going to tell a lot about how this game is going to conclude. If Elk can pop off on that second item spike, even with how accelerated Tarzan is, there is definitely a huge chance for this Weibo composition here. And the fact that Tarzan went for Shojin, trying to prioritize a little bit of extra durability and ability haste instead of something like the Serpent's Fang, there's going to be a lot of value off of Lulu's shields. Rift Herald was successfully secured. Are they going to try to turn this one around? A lot of good coat, kiting, and slows from Anyone's Legend. Tries to catch out Elk. It's only Summoner Spells burned by Hong, but Elk still has everything in the tank. Pops the Transcendence, tries to use it to buy space. Xiaohu's looking for a quick flank. Elk flushes forward, gets a lot of flushes onto the back line of Anyone's Legend. Maybe there's a reposition, there's a retake. Tarzan goes in deep.
Whoa!
Gets looped up mid-air. Big shutdown goes over to Jiejie's Nocturne, and the dog is put down.
Wow, incredible fight there coming in from Weibo, but is it enough to be able to withstand this? You saw that Tarzan, if he got even a tick of that bleed damage from the Darkened Daggers, Elk was bleeding out there. Zika was bleeding out in that fight, and we talked about it. In a 5-on-5 standoff, AL should be in a much better spot to play with this Corki now completed. Trinity Force completed for this champion. Imperial Mandate. This was the power spike that we wanted to see for AL's bottom lane. And in the standoff, this is good, right? Like, Elk's already transcended, or he's going to be popping that soon. Still has barriers, still has flash. I think you're under very little threat, but look at how long range. And again, where is Weibo's engage? It has to be from Xiaohu walking in, using his ultimate. If he doesn't get hit by that bubble from Kael, I think those are more kills in Weibo's back pocket. And now, we come back to live. AO got a kill onto both of the bottom laners of Weibo Gaming and the mid turret.
Just when we thought that Weibo Gaming had been able to find a trounce over Anyone's Legend, they come back off the rift, redeploy, and immediately punish. And I swore I thought I saw Elk go for a flash here as we get the quick replay of what happened exactly.
Oh, he got hit by a literal 1 pixel binding. Wow! Kael, dude. Kael on range supports. He is smurfing. And look, we've talked about Kael a lot throughout the years, but this guy continues to impress with his level of play, especially just how well-rounded of a player he is.
Yeah. When Kael is at his best, he literally is the best in this league. He's definitely going to have his work cut out for him from on this season, as Elk is saved by the wild growth. Jiejie turns out the lights, turns on to Shanks first. The Golden Emperor falls. Tarzan, over the Emperor's Divide, is able to retreat back to safety. Zika now looking for a chance to play, but does literally no damage to Flandre, as we talked about before. At least for Weibo, they can take victory in finding 1 member gone at the beginning of that fight.
Look, and technically they got 2 members gone. We killed the Maiden. That's like the whole champion. Zika, we're going in again. And look, Elk has no ultimate. I don't think we are fighting for this dragon, guys. Let's get ourselves this mid turret. Let's continue to snowball Elk. If he can get the 3 items, I think we are really happy about our chances here in this game, but somehow Weibo, with their skirmishing, and I think especially with them catching out Shanks, that opens up the Dragon. Now Soul Point here for them. We're talking about this as if AL were looking to kind of close out this second game here now, and outside of Tarzan, I'm getting a little worried.
Yeah, that one engage from Tarzan without call of the pack and just into a 5-man unit from Weibo Gaming cost him his effective lead in this game. He's still technically ahead of Jiejie by a little bit of amount, but he's nowhere near super far ahead of the curve that we saw just a few moments ago. And now that Weibo are at Soul Point, this is a very threatening position that the Weibo guys can kind of hold over anyone's Legends heads, because when we look at like objective setup a few minutes from now, it doesn't just have to be, oh, they're gonna fight us at Dragon. You can try and trade Baron for Dragon and force anyone's Legend to follow the pace of your own map play from here on out.
Hell yeah. But things to look out for as we continue on in this game. I don't think Baron is going to be a big issue, and part of this composition for Weibo that we set up in draft was hunting inside lanes, but you can see now Weibo are basically playing 4-1. Both Aurora and Jace are kind of sitting in Fog of War, bouncing between, hey, we'll go top lane, pick up a wave, and then we'll move into Fog to potentially have to screen for Elk. And because of that, it kind of means that all of Weibo's game is now centralized around the mid wave, which is where Elk is going to be a large portion of the time. Until they take one of either the tier 1 in top lane or in mid lane, I think that AL essentially have them pigeonholed into what their strategy has to be for the next few minutes before Dragon spawns. And once you know what your opponent want to do, I think AL are incredibly smart about just not playing around that. They don't have to enter in mid. They don't have to constantly fight. You have this turret at 4 plates already. Azir's also farming up. We are very comfortable with just slowing the game down and dragging it out to potentially getting 2 and 3 items.
Yeah, if you can get Tarzan to this next item, which looks to be a Black Cleaver, at least be a little bit more beefy. Wow, they are pulling the Baron. Does Weibo know?
Oh, they do!
There's a ward on that Pixel Brush! I mean,
Daylights.
Kael and Hope, they have to do the best they can to try and scream them away or hold this choke point entrance here. 4k HP, Paranoia, turns out the lights, they just instantly go for Hope. The rest of the Weibo Gaming lineup cannot get into the pit, and everyone from anyone's Legend stuck on the Baron. But now, can they make it out? They have a turret right behind them. They're totally safe.
Yeah. Look, this is going to turn into mid-tier 1. You are fine with this trade. AL, instead, Tarzan doesn't even recall. He's going forward. We're going to try to just force out the flash from Zika. Multiple teleports in. Maybe they can actually just stop Weibo from entering mid lane at all. So, AL, we use the strength of our top side, with Tarzan being this far ahead, with Flandre and Shanks showing up for the objective, immediately evaporate the Baron, and now AL have control through mid lane and potentially even setting themselves up for the Dragon in 2 minutes.
Yeah, they get to eat all these camps here. They're going to get a decent amount of plate coverage on this tier 2 turret. Tarzan also forces the flash out of a carry like Jace well before this Dragon spawns, while his ultimate is going to be up in time. Elk is trying to poke them out as well, but he doesn't have Transcendence, so he cannot get any more off of that. And Weibo, it's now 1 minute 30 before the next Dragon spawn. I don't know if there's realistically a window you can try and force to try and find any summoner spells, just like what anyone's Legend did a couple minutes ago.
Elk seems like he is buying a shield bow, which, look, you get to survive. That's great. I'm looking at Tarzan being level 15 at 23 minutes into this game.
Yeah. That's a big dog.
There's no items that Elk can buy here outside of a GA that keeps him alive for the first rotation of spells from Tarzan. And look, he won't have a Black Cleaver, but I don't think it's gonna matter. There is an Azir that's also very fed, and AL are very confident about their position. I was talking about it from the perspective of not having to do anything, but if Weibo are constantly going to play on mid and they're going to lose on sides, then give ourselves the Baron, and now they really can't fight us, ever. They can't ever match because they're going to lose out on a lot of gold. This mid turret just dies.
I'm just
Tarzan
impressed
gets Black
that
Cleaver.
Tarzan doesn't even need a Serpent's Fang to effectively threaten Elk on this champion. And I don't know if that is just because Lulu's shields got nerfed and therefore Tarzan just doesn't care, or he's just so far ahead that it just doesn't matter and you'd rather have all the rest of the stats that Black Cleaver offers. And it's actually Hex Optics, not Shield Bow, so Alk is just trying to max the damage he can get when he is hitting at outside of the range.
At max range, I don't know how often he's going to have a max range Hex Optics this game, even if it is 500, you know? Naafiri, Yorick, Azir is going to outrange him maybe. That's kind of your goal here. Like we said, they have no control of the side, so Weibo need to play on these mid waves right now. Zika, you're supposed to be part of this poke, but this Dragon's already halfway done.
Wow, Flandre was soloing the Dragon, but regroups with the team once Jiejie sends it with the Paranoia. Tarzan now trying to play on the left side to see if he can wait for Alk to step up a little too far. Yorick's minions are still keeping the Dragon leashed, so it's still viable for anyone's Legend to turn back to it here at 4,500 HP.
All they need to do is wait. Look at top lane right now. Multiple waves stacking. That turret's going to fall. AL, they can squeeze this as much as possible.
Potential turnaround between worlds is popped. Xiaohu is super chunked. Thanks to the maiden, Elk tries to step up and buy space. Shanks dashes forward briefly, and he's poking the ball off. Embers the 5 doesn't necessarily hit anyone. Elk is about to go off with the Transcendence. Can he turn this fight around? But Tarzan takes the call of the pack, empowers his damage, and slays the heart of Weibo Gaming. Yes, the dog goes down, but it's a worthy sacrifice.
Hey, you get to stall out the game a little bit longer, and Jiejie gets to hit its top camps. That's as good as it's going to get here for Weibo. They don't get the Dragon. Hope lands a massive missile. I can't wait to look back at this on the replay because he basically puts out so much damage in one small play that it completely cuts this off. I just want to watch this river here. Walks in, gets poke onto Xiaohu. I'm watching Hope and Shanks. He's giving Tidecallers, busting 3 people in that brush. Zika, Jiejie, and Hong already chunked. And now this is multiple fights here, Raafaa, where I feel like Weibo, they pulled the trigger too early. We sent the Nocturne Paranoia way too early. He's going in and then just immediately shielding and having to walk out. That is not a Nocturne that is threatening me at all here in this game. And if everything is on to Elk, as soon as we kill the Yunara, he's just done. That is all the spells, all of the damage that they have access to. And AL correctly prioritize the right targets, and I think the sequencing in which they do it is superb here in this game.
And it would have been more devastating had Hong not been able to find a quick polymorph on that second cast of Tarzan when he was targeting Jiejie with the reset on his ultimate, but still the damage was done. Dragon Soul denied from Weibo Gaming. The Anyone's Legend Gold lead now over 2,000. Not necessarily unrecoverable for Weibo as they pop the darkness with the Paranoia. Jiejie sends it in the middle of 4 people. Will he survive? Ember's Divide gets him back up as the Wild Crow keeps him topped off. Shanks is the first one to fall, and Elk is safe behind that dark procession as they find another one on the Hope.
20 seconds before Baron. What else can Weibo get? Look, I mean, a Baron would be nice. It would be great for them to be able to utilize it. I think the timer on it would also sync up perfectly with this Dragon coming up in 3, but AL are not giving them any position, mostly due to Tarzan's lead. If they can find this Naafiri, then I think it is full game here for Weibo Gaming, but I don't think they're going to have the time. It looks like they're going to continue to try to find resets. Maybe they'll even just go for that top tier one instead and just cash out.
Just got to get some gold wherever you can when you have this tempo advantage of 2 members being off the Summoner's Rift here for Weibo Gaming. Elk is going to cash it in, get some extra gold in his pocket. We'll see what he decides to further itemize. Has a pickaxe in his inventory. Maybe it's an Infinity Edge, but back to the replay.
Finally, we get a slightly threatening Nocturne ult. I'm still not sold, Raafaa. I'm still not there, but look at the combo. We got a 4-man. It's like a mini Nocturne Shockwave, except the Shockwave was no damage. It's all CC. And look, it worked. It worked. I'm still skeptical. I'm still skeptical that that is going to put a meaningful dent here in this game. Dude, Tarzan is way too mobile.
You know, maybe if it wasn't Protoboat Rush, but like Ludens and Shadow Flame, that Aurora flank does some insane burst damage on these people here. But
if we're changing that, can I also change my Jace talk, please?
Sure. Yeah. We can retcon that as well. You know what?
Cool.
Just retcon the whole draft. Just
retcon the whole series. Look, I would be up right now. I mean, you know, I predicted Weibo were gonna win. My Weibo copium was at maximum capacity. Yeah, I would really like to rewrite what just happened the last hour and a half of my life, basically.
You and many other Game of Thrones fans after watching Season 8, but as we get ready for another Dragon Spawn in about a minute's time. Anyone's Legend, once again, are resuming the same play and setup. Prioritize mid-wave, walk into the river, get control of that blue quadrant jungle for vision. There is a Baron on the other side of the map, and there is a control ward that will spot the other team's control ward there. Not sure if that is ever a possibility for Weibo to just send it on the Baron when this dragon spawns, though.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how fast the Baron disappeared with Tarzan and Shanks there. I imagine it is going to be much quicker for this dragon, especially because they don't have the dragon resistances anymore. They have less of the Dragon Slayer stacks, which I'm very interested to see if that actually continues to be a thing that reoccurs next season. But, I mean, Weibo, we talked about it before, play through mid-waves, play through wherever Elk is, and just do the Nayram, or I guess the China Ram. We really got to work on that. It does not work when we are not in the LCS.
Something ARAM for sure. Elk's Flash now back up, has access to both summoner spells, so does Hong. Hope potentially chunked out here. Kael pops the summoner heal. Maiden has been deployed as well. Weibo Gaming are actually starting to buy up space here. They at least have control of mid-wave on the next one, as well as this banana brush, but they're all clumped up here. The rest of Anyone's Legend deciding to send Flandre over to the bot wave first before looking to regroup.
This is the point as a Weibo fan where you're the most excited, because random late game wins has been their strategy for a lot of seasons. We saw a lot of random late game Weibo wins. You're going to give up another dragon? I mean, Hung is half HP already. You have Paranoia still. When are we going to pull the trigger, and how are we going to do it? AL, though, complete control, and I think Tarzan is just chilling as this Nefarian.
Whoa, a lot of damage on the Hope. Jiejie is going to send in, assassinates the Corki in the backline. The crowd roars to life in favor of Weibo. Tarzan looks for Jiejie, gets the first reset with the Hound's Pursuit. Can they chase help? He's super massive, he's transcendent, but is he immortal? Hell no! Weibo Gaming lose out on their star AD carry once again, and their captain Xiaohu is not going to be long for this world either. Tries the flash and outplay it, but can't abide the Yorick power. Anyone's Legend going to send it through the bot lane.
The gap in the solo lanes this series is just too much to handle. We wanted to see Flandre cook, but he just gave us the classic recipes. Give us another Yorick from Flandre. Give me a good matchup in my top and mid lane, and let's just take a 2-0 over Weibo Gaming.
12 seconds on Jiejie, 10 on Hong. It should still be enough time for Anyone's Legend to close this series out with a dominating 2-0 sweep over Weibo Gaming.
Take those. Ale still looking good. I mean, this felt like all of the things that make Weibo Gaming the team they are is exactly what we saw here. Elk doing really well on this Yunara. I think even similar to game one, had a couple moments where we were questioning the decision-making on his Ashe, and it just kind of an invisible series from both Zika and Xiaohu for Weibo. But AL, you know, their opponent's misery is their gain. They get their first series win here in Split 2, and I think, again, relying on the solo lanes to perform. Flandre and Shanks having a really solid two games here, and Tarzan kind of just leading the charge in that manner.
Yeah. Similar to game one, there was like 1 or 2 hiccups in this second game for Anyone's Legend, but afterwards they collected themselves over again, reminded themselves how do they want to play out those setups, and they were super patient. They were super disciplined with the river fights, constantly just fishing for poke off of Corki rockets and Gatling gun empowered auto attacks as well, just trying to see if they could ensure that they were always winning the health war, and then being the ones that forced Weibo to make the panic decision, okay, we just have to send it at this point. Yeah, Hope fell, but they had done enough damage to the backline that Jiejie is completely disconnected, and now you're effectively fighting a much stronger 4-on-4 where Tarzan just runs that entire fight.
We got to see him on kind of the classics. Nefiri, and Pantheon. I love watching Tarzan play these champions, and hopefully the fans at home got to have a really fun game, because, I mean, those were really just, I think, hallmark games of what AL have succeeded at being able to do. Let Tarzan, who I think is, again, MVP from Split 1, and probably the best jungler in the league, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, even with Shun eventually kind of surpassing him in the playoff series.
Yeah.
Tarzan continues to show his versatility, but as we keep saying here for LPL, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You gotta make it through the whole regular season, and then you gotta be able to perform in those big moments when we come to the playoff series. So that's kind of the hope as we take yet another start to a journey here for Split 2.
Yeah. We know that Tarzan at his best is not just the best player in his role, but just the best player, period, here in the league. But like you said, he's got to do it day in and day out, week to week basis. And even when that happened in Split 1, if we want to be excited about Tarzan going to another international, first he's got to make it there again. And then second, he's got to be able to carry the momentum of his regular season performance all the way through playoffs as well. Because Tarzan didn't get to show up at first stand, and it was Shun that innovated the meta of getting away from the full clear style of just prioritizing farm, reset, farm, reset, farm, reset, farm. No, we're playing to bin. We're playing to our superstar top laner. We're playing aggressive invades. We're trying to take proactive timers and catch the enemy jungler off guard. Look for early invades and make sure that you are bending the map to your pace instead of just following what everyone is kind of assumed is the stock standard handshake.
Yeah, that style, very good if you have not only great laners, but if the things you're going for work, right?
Yeah.
As soon as it doesn't work, the guy who's been full clearing, he's up a level and a half, he's got better items than you, and suddenly you are kind of screwed as jungle. So it works for that team. We saw AL did play, again, really heavily around their solo laner success. As long as Flandre and Shanks have good matchups and have stable games in the first 10-15, I usually am not very worried about their chances of being able to lose a game. They consistently show good setup around objectives, and I just loved, especially in this series, how they showed a lot of great patience around the fight. They said, look, we have this dragon, it's not going to kill us. We're actually, again, bringing up like the Dragon Slayer buff that's in the game right now, because they are the ones that didn't take as many dragons early on. It does nothing to them, and it also takes a lot of damage back from them. So I think just being able to showcase that level of wherewithal really, really tight from them, and that is what we come to expect from not just this team, but really what should be the standard for any org that comes in with the same 5 players that have now played for more than a year at this point.
For sure. And getting ahead of this series, I just want to immediately say that Tarzan, player of the game for this second one.
Yes.
Probably player of the series as well. Would you have like any other votes towards someone else for player of the series if it's not Tarzan?
Remind me, what was Flandre played Scion top lane? Never mind.
Yeah.
I would have to say it's probably Tarzan. If it's not Tarzan, I think Shanks had a really 2 good games. But if there's ever some kind of argument, if I wanted to get one guide right now by someone in chat, they could just say he played Ryze, he played Azir, his 2 most played champions this year. And I would say you're timed out. You're banned in chat right now. You cannot one guy me. Oh, he feared the dog. Oh no. Like, that does not change the play. That does not change the play in my mind, but it's just like pouring pure lemons over paper cuts.
Yep. Rubbing salt in the wound. Would you rather have salt or acidity on a cut?
I would not want to have salt. Salt, coarse. The grains rubbing against each other can also cause more potential damage to your body. Boom. I'm going for acidity.
Yeah. Rather be toxic than salty. 07.
Yep.
That is our life motto here. You know, if you ever
Nope.
find us in solo queue,
Nope. 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 I don't type. I have never gone a chat restriction because I don't type. Saline is different. Saline is there's no. I have to.
It is. It is a liquid that is filled with
yes.
salt that has been
The
dissolved.
physical properties of salt are not present when it is in water. Dude, I got baited again. I can't believe I indulged.
Dude, your
Ilia's
husband is the master of rage baiting you, man.
Yes.
It's crazy.
He is. I can't say that on the show. I really want to. Ah! Okay. All right. Let it out. Let's move on. We can talk about it. It doesn't even have to be about this game, but we have to move on because I'm gonna be stuck on this now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious if the LPL broadcast is gonna give Kael player of the series just because they already gave him like player of the game in game 1. Because I still stand by that. I think Shanks was by far the most effective and the cleanest player on that team in game 1. But yeah, I feel like Tarzan made a lot of really strong decisions, played knowingly or played with really good awareness and guesses about where Jiejie was going to be. Obviously, there was a little bit of early game information, but afterwards, it's like, it's just game sense, right? Understanding, okay, if Jiejie is going to go for this play, I can wrap around and punish the fact that he's going to look for this crab and he no longer has level 6 or he no longer has ultimate. So it's just a lot of good just timers that he is able to then find an advantages for himself. That should just be player of the game worthy. And then he's like one of the